The title of this lecture is The Roman Legacy. In this lecture, we will explore what I believe to be the 5 most important things that Roman civilization gave to the Christian civilization that emerged in the Middle Ages. These 5 things are the idea of the commonwealth, natural law, which provided the public foundation for the commonwealth, the virtue of pietas, which is a particular virtue that governed the relational obligations that maintained the commonwealth, friendship, which was perhaps the most important relational obligation, and Humanitas, the principle whereby these ideas were instilled in young people. The word commonwealth is an English translation of the Latin term res publica, which is the source of our word republic. Literally, res publica or commonwealth means thing of the people. It can also mean concern of the people or affair of the people. Put in simplest terms, commonwealth refers to the common life and well-being of the people. In its strictest sense, the Roman commonwealth refers to the Roman state. But in a broader, fuller sense, it refers to the entire Roman way of life, which included political life, religious life, economic life, intellectual life, and even artistic life. All these facets of public life contributed in some way to the common life and well-being of the Roman people. Marcus Tullius Cicero, the great Roman orator and statesman, gives us a fuller understanding of what a true commonwealth is. According to Cicero, a commonwealth is the concern of a people, but a people is not any group of men assembled in any way, but an assemblage of some size associated with one another through agreement on law and community of interest. The 2 key terms here are agreement on law and community of interest, or shared interest. The word interest here does not mean what we usually mean by it. For example, I am interested in sports, or I am interested in philosophy. No, interest here means to have a personal stake in something. For example, if I own stock in a company, I have a stake or interest in that company, and thus I want the company to prosper. Likewise, people must have a stake or interest in their community in order for them to desire that their community prosper. Now, when Cicero speaks of an agreement in law, what does he mean? He does not just mean specific laws that the government would enact. He refers to what we today call natural law. In fact, any specific law, if it is to have the genuine character of law, must be in conformity with natural law. Cicero writes, "True law is right reason in agreement with nature. It is of universal application, unchanging and everlasting. It summons to duty by its commands and averts from wrongdoing by its prohibitions." Now, when we refer to natural law, we need to clarify what we mean by nature. In this context, natural law does not mean physical or biological laws, those observable patterns of behavior we see in the physical universe and in the animal kingdom. The nature to which natural law refers is human nature. Thus, natural law is the law of our own human nature, which is rational. This is, in fact, what separates human beings from animals, from brute beasts. Thus, if we are to behave in an authentically human way, we must conform our conduct to natural law, the law of our rational human nature. Cicero is emphatic about this. He writes, "Whoever is disobedient is fleeing from himself and denying his human nature, and by reason of this very fact he will suffer the worst punishment." Moreover, natural law is universally binding, at all times and at all places. Why? Because human beings are fundamentally the same. We have a shared rational nature. Cicero writes, "We cannot be freed from its obligations by senate or people, and we need not look outside ourselves for an expounder or interpreter of it. There will not be different laws at Rome and Athens, or different laws now and in the future, but one eternal and unchangeable law will be valid for all nations and all times." Further still, this law is ultimately subject to God, who is the author of the natural law. Cicero continues, "And there will be one master and ruler, that is, God, over us all. For he is the author of this law, its promulgator, and its enforcing judge." Having discussed the commonwealth and natural law, which is its foundation, we now move from public to private life. The two areas of life, of course, were interdependent for the Romans, just as they are for us today. But at the heart of private personal life and relationships is the virtue of pietas, a Latin word which can be translated as piety or devotion. It included devotion to one's family, to the community, and to the state, and religious devotion. This fundamental virtue fostered the typically Roman character traits of diligence, bravery, and a willingness to make personal sacrifices for the greater good. Thus, the virtue of pietas provided the personal foundation for public civic virtue. For Romans, the highest type of pietas or devotion was amicitia, friendship. Cicero tells us that the word is derived from one of the Latin words for love, amor. Cicero defines friendship as a complete identity of feeling about all things in heaven and on earth, an identity which is strengthened by mutual goodwill and affection. Friendship is a relationship between two people that goes beyond mere utility or convenience, beyond anything that is fleeting, even though a friend will ultimately pass away from this life. You might say that friendship contains within itself a hint of eternity, and this is certainly how Cicero looked at it. Moreover, Cicero tells us that friendship is only possible between good men. Why is this? Because genuine friendship does two things. First, it recognizes the good in the other person, and second, it seeks to cultivate and perfect this good. Only good persons are able to do this. Therefore, friendship is only possible among those who are morally good or virtuous. Finally, we come to the fifth part of the Roman legacy, the principle of humanitas. Humanitas refers to what we would today call a liberal arts education. Roman education emphasized broad intellectual and moral training ordered toward a twofold goal: training in virtue for service to the commonwealth. It was intended to equip the young person for citizenship, that is, to take an interest, according to our earlier understanding of the term, in the Roman commonwealth. It was how the knowledge and virtues necessary for the survival of the commonwealth were instilled in youth. Roman humanitas was cultivated through the 7 liberal arts, which were divided into 2 sections, the trivium and the quadrivium. The trivium, or threefold way, consisted of the basic language arts, grammar, logic, and rhetoric. Grammar taught the student how to read and write clearly, logic, how to think clearly, and rhetoric, how to write and speak eloquently and persuasively. These were skills a person needed if they were going to enter into any kind of occupation involving public or political service. The quadrivium, or fourfold way, consisted of the sciences, mathematics, geometry, astronomy, and music. These 4 disciplines revealed the order of the natural world. The idea of order in regard to mathematics and geometry is obvious. In regard to astronomy, order consisted of the orderly way in which the sun, moon, stars, and planets rotated around the earth, each in its own distinct sphere or orbit. For during the ancient and medieval periods, it was taken for granted that we lived in a geocentric, that is, earth-centered, as opposed to a heliocentric or sun-centered solar system. Music also revealed the order of the universe. The relationship between various musical notes and tones was based upon a notion of mathematical proportion and order. In short, music had a certain structure that reflected the greater cosmic order. In this lecture, we have covered what I believe are the 5 most important things the Romans gave to the medieval world. This legacy would survive the fall of the Roman Empire in Western Europe. It would, however, undergo a significant transformation in relation to the Church, and was reoriented toward the salvation of souls.